welcome Rob Rassey, new head coach at Harvard. And first of all, congratulations. You know, you've been at Harvard before, and then you were briefly a head coach in the USHL before going to Michigan. And in the USHL as a head coach, I mean, it's a good experience to have that. But were you always looking to come back to college hockey? Was that always the idea?
Yeah, I think so. I think, and thank you very much, by the way. I think for me, the chance to go to Michigan specifically was extremely appetizing for me. For me, I grew up in Michigan, so for me, the chance to go be an assistant in Michigan was incredibly exciting. And then I think from the other side of it too, to be able to go work with Brandon Naurato, and I knew obviously what he was going to build at Michigan, and for me to be able to go in there and to build that along with him was an opportunity that I couldn't pass up.
Yeah, for sure. And then some might call you crazy for wanting to go from the Big Ten school that's always going to the Frozen Four to the Ivy League school, as great tradition as Harvard has, for all the constraints that the Ivies now have, especially. I mean, every year it seems to be more and more. Obviously, the allure of being a head coach is great. I know you spent time at Harvard before and loved it, but just, again, I'm being a little tongue-in-cheek, but I mean, talk about, jumping from the big time, so to speak, to Harvard and the Ivy League. Not that Harvard can't be the big time. I mean, they've won a national championship before, a long time ago. But just talk about, the thought process of wanting to go there and getting that job at Harvard.
I think within college hockey these days, I think obviously the rules are, I feel like they're changing every week now. Whereas my first 8 years in working in college, there really wasn't any change. Now I feel like we can't go a week without something being different. And for me, within the landscape and within all of college hockey, I think everybody's going to have their challenges that they face, and throughout the recruiting process, throughout whatever. I feel like every program is going to have its challenges, and I feel like Michigan, whether it's Harvard, whether whoever it is, there's always going to be some obstacles. There's always going to be some things that you have to work through and overcome. And for me, looking at the opportunity of Harvard and what the university and what the rich history that the program has, I feel like is still very uniquely positioned to have success in college hockey. I've been here before as an assistant. I think the conversations are still very similar to what I've had back when I was an assistant with recruits. So I think it's for me, I look at it as exciting and opportunities.
Yeah, let's jump right into this. Like I said, we'll talk more about the team for sure, and we'll get into some of that. But I mean, it's hard to avoid some of these issues, I guess, or NCAA rules. Everything's changing. When you were assistant coach at Harvard, it was obviously Michigan. I'm using Michigan as an example, but I mean any Big Ten, bigger program, always had the resources. There was always a reason why, first rounders would go to a place like Michigan over an Ivy League school. Let's say, although Harvard did have its fair amount, but back when you were an assistant, Michigan couldn't give $200,000 to a first-round draft pick. Now it can, right? So that is the difference. And there's some other ones, too. I mean, obviously there's the 5-5, which is just coming in now, which, if not that many kids will probably do this, but, I mean, a kid could theoretically stay 5 years at Michigan. Can't do that at Harvard. So when, you say the conversations are somewhat the same, I mean, do you have to address that when you're talking to recruits now?
I think it's kind of the elephant in the room a little bit, but still for me, I feel like there's only the way that I look at it is there's one university in college hockey that gets to offer a Harvard education, and for me, being part of that network and being part of that for the rest of your life, it's hey, like we. From the conversations that you just mentioned with like the big NIL deals and stuff like that, we won't be in those. But for the right people that understand what Harvard is and what it can, what it represents and what it can do for the rest of your life, I think we're still very much in those conversations.
At Michigan, there was a lot of opportunity, I guess. I mean, with so much player transfer movement, I mean, I know it ruffles feathers, and I'm not saying you guys did anything wrong necessarily, but with all the movement, I mean, it's easier for the bigger schools to kind of get players, almost like they're recruiting from other NCAA schools instead of recruiting, you know what I mean? Instead of from juniors. I mean, there's a lot of that opportunity. And now, again, the shoe is on the other foot here. So how do you prevent that? I mean, maybe you have some experience now, having been on the other side. Like, how do you prevent? Because I always say, like, hey, coaches will always say, hey, if you give players a nice environment, they're not going to want to transfer. I think that used to be true, but I don't know if that's true now because it's so enticing and kids are so used to moving. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There has to be almost something more to get them to stay. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you have any thoughts on just how to retain. There's the recruitment of it, and then you have to retain the players that you have.
Yeah, I think from the transfer portal side of things, like obviously I know a lot of people will speak out and say it's just gotten so overblown and just so I think it's grown to the point where beyond anybody thought that it would. For just like my personal opinion, I just not a huge fan of the transfer portal stuff. And just through my experiences at Michigan, I feel like even like going into this year, we didn't add anybody out of the portal. So what I know from our side of things at Harvard is just going to be like to the foundation of who we are and create an environment where kids don't feel like they need to leave. And I feel like if we do a good enough job of that and developing relationships with our guys and making it feel that they have everything that they have here to like be successful, then why would they leave type thing. So for me, the focus is internal and just making sure that we create the best environment that we can for our players. And so they would never feel the need to leave.
Yeah, it's funny you say. I mean, not a big fan of the transfer portal, which I mean, look, I wish everything was like it was 15 years ago, but unfortunately it's not, right? But, I mean, while at Michigan, that's probably where it ruffles the most feathers when, Michigan did bring in a player from Cornell. I mean, look, Cornell fans probably feel worse against you than I do, by the way, because of all Cornell losing players to Michigan. So you don't have to get into that specifically, but I mean, I'm just kidding with you. But I mean, there was a number of high-profile transfers from other NCAA schools that Michigan got. So, I mean, was that just something you felt like you had to do, even though maybe this day and age, you wish it wasn't that way, but you kind of have to play in that park if you want to compete?
100%. 100%. I mean, it's a adapt or die, right? I mean, you have to kind of turn over every stone when in roster construction and making sure that you're giving yourself the best chance to build the best team possible. And like I said earlier, I feel like the rules are changing so much within the NCAA. I feel like it's happening every week. There's kind of something new, but when looking at it from that side of things, you're always looking for the best ways possible to improve your roster and going to exploit every avenue possible to do so.
Gotcha. Well, like I don't want to dwell on this all day long because I got other things I want to talk to you about. But if there's one place that you and Casey and all the other Ivy League schools maybe can get together and be kumbaya about, is that maybe you can all lobby your administrations to allow some of these things to be a little more lenient as far as NIL. Because I always said that some of the Ivy League schools have such wealthy alumni that if you ever were able to actually be allowed to do a lot of this internal NIL stuff, that you guys. I had someone say to me once, if that was ever allowed, the Ivy Leagues would rule college hockey. So,
yeah,
maybe you can gang up and convince them. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But like I said, I still incredibly excited about everything that we have to offer players. And while that world is ever changing, we'll do everything and offer everything that we can.
All right, well, let's talk about your team a little bit then. I mean, what have you been able to determine as far as where things stand with the I mean, whenever there's a changeover, there's always changes and whatnot. I mean, what's your outlook for the coming season with the roster you have?
Yeah, I think a ton of excitement. We came out here for a series last year. We played them Thanksgiving. We played them for 2 games, and I thought on the Saturday night, I thought they outplayed us, and we had a really strong team last year at Michigan. And watching the way that the Harvard guys played against us that night, gave me in getting this job a lot of excitement, because seeing that potential is, and knowing that that's in there, is incredibly exciting. And I think for me, having recruited a lot over the past 10 years now, very comfortable in seeing a lot of our players just over the past, while they were playing junior hockey, coaching against them last year when we were here, and then just going back and watching some video and doing some due diligence on the roster. For me, I'm incredibly excited. I think there's a lot of really good players here, and they're guys with a lot of potential. And I know for myself, very excited to work with this group. Talking with, getting to know the guys here over the past few weeks, it's I think matched our excitement is matched by theirs. And for me, just really looking forward to the group. I think they're going to be hungry, and really looking forward to working with them.
Gotcha. All right. Well, listen, if you don't mind, I'm going to go back to memory lane now. In the time here, but just again to fill people in on your background. Maybe another reason to dislike Cornell is that they ended your college career in the NCAA tournament. But I will say, I mean, I'm being just tweaking you there, so don't take it personally. But it was an unbelievable your senior year. I mean, you came in as a freshman, and Greg Cronin took over. I think you guys won 3 games, and by your senior year, you won 25 games and made the NCAAs for the first time in Northeastern in like 15 years. So, just talk about that run, that last minute of the NCAA tournament game notwithstanding. Talk about that 2008-9 season.
Yeah, I take a ton of pride in that. I feel like in being a part of the resurgence kind of Northeastern hockey. And when Crow came in, like you said, our first year we won 3 games. We didn't win a game on the road that year, and the first road game that we won was my sophomore year. The second year we actually beat Michigan on the road at Yost. And so you know what, seeing and being a part of that was for me incredibly special. I think Crow did an unbelievable job of injecting life into that program, and that senior year that we had, we had a great team, and we were deep. We had a great goaltender in Brad Thiessen, who was a Hobie finalist that year, and we had some high expectations. We ended up losing in the Beanpot final to BU.
Oh, right. And then the semis.
Beanpot final to BU with the team that ended up winning the national title there for BU. And then we just kind of lost to them on the last day of the year too for the Hockey East regular season. So it was a ton of fun, and I know for me, just I know myself and all the guys that I played with take a ton of pride in that, and always look back on that time fondly. And that game in Grand Rapids in 2009 didn't go the way that we wanted it to against the Big Red, but take a ton of pride in the success that Northeastern had when I was there. And it's been awesome to see the program and the successes that they've had over the last since that was 15 years ago now. So it's pretty cool to see.
Well, Cornell lost to Bemidji State in the next game, so they're still bitter about that. But for whatever that's worth. But I mean, playing for Greg, I've talked to Cronin a bunch over the years. I mean, I remember the first time I ever talked to him, he was actually filling in for Sean Walsh. That's how old I am. But when Sean was suspended, actually, in the mid-'90s at Maine, that was the first time. But he can be an intimidating guy. I mean, what was it like playing for him? He doesn't smile too much. I don't know. But you stuck around, though, or an assistant for a couple of years, right? So I mean,
I did, yeah. Crow, he actually invited me back to be a volunteer assistant after I graduated. And you know what? I have a ton of respect for Crow. I think he's an outstanding hockey coach. Playing for him for 4 years and then working with him for 2, the amount of detail and professionalism that he brings to coaching is unlike anything that I had ever seen before. And I know as a player, greatly appreciated it, and just the way that my brain worked and being able to absorb all that information. And you walked in every day knowing exactly what was expected of you, exactly what you were supposed to do. And I know I've taken a lot of that with me now and throughout my coaching career. And I know he's not, he can be a little bit intimidating, like you mentioned, but for me, I have a ton of respect for Crow. I think he's an outstanding hockey coach, and I think for me, I've I learned a ton from him during my time as a player and a volunteer.
By the way, how'd you wind up I mean, I guess you were being recruited by Bruce Crowder's staff, right? So when you
No, it was a kind of a
Oh, really?
late thing. Yeah, it was a late thing. I was actually committed to go to Holy Cross.
Okay.
And late in the summer that year, I had the opportunity. The opportunity came up at Northeastern, and very late in the summer. And it's funny because it was Paul Pearl who was coach
Right.
at Holy Cross at the time. I ended up working with Paul
Right.
for 4 years.
Did he yell at you at first when?
You know, he gave me a little bit of a hard time, but and it's funny. The assistant coach at the time was Kyle Wallach,
Yeah.
who's now a very
Out
good
at
friend
Yale.
of mine. So
Right? You just went back to Yale, right?
you did.
Yeah, yeah. Well, hopefully I'll get a hold of those guys at some point. It's the only ones I have left. But three Ivy League coaches turning over in this offseason, which is kind of crazy. Actually, the only one who's been in the entire ECAC longer than 5 years is Rand at this point. So
Wow.
I'm not sure he's ever
Crazy
going
stat.
anywhere.
Yeah.
There's been 11 coaching changes in the ECAC in the last 5. Anyway, crazy. But and then after that, again, you went back to the USHL. Oh, you went to the USHL, I guess, for your first coaching stint there as an assistant. You went to Harvard. What was that conversation like? I'm trying to remember who was. I mean, I know Teddy was the head coach at the time, but I'm trying to remember who you replaced there.
So it was Jerry Fortin.
Oh.
Jerry had left to take a job with the Buffalo Sabres, and it was late in the summer again. And during my time at Youngstown, we had the 2 years that I was there had a great deal of success, and opportunity came up at Harvard. There was an opening, and Albie O'Connell was the other assistant. So
Oh, right.
I had played for Albie at Northeastern and worked with him the 2 years that I was a volunteer there. So just kind of reached out to Albie if he could put me in touch with Teddy, and then Teddy gave me the opportunity to come to Harvard, and forever grateful for that. As a coach, you're always looking to kind of chances for you to kind of grow and expand, and for me, for my first college job, to be at Harvard as an assistant was incredible.
And was it 18 Frozen Four or 17? When was it?
17.
17, right. And Paul, you had a great staff that year. I mean, that was certainly part of it, and a bunch of high, not the NHL draft picks, NL all, but I mean a bunch of picks, high picks that year. So Harvard's never lacked for the ability to get players. That's always been kind of the hallmark, is that Harvard always seemed to have, NHL caliber talent come through. I mean, you're not going to say otherwise now. So I'm just concerned, like, oh, will that change? Now that it's, that the other schools can offer money and stuff like that. So obviously, you think that that's still possible to get those kind of players in there, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, and I think going through my time through the 6 years as an assistant coach, I feel like I had a bunch of great guys come through, a bunch of great teams, and went to the Final Four. And I feel that the team that we had in 17 that went to the Final Four, like I feel like the year before was a little bit more hyped, with kind of Jimmy Vesey coming back for his senior year,
Right.
and kind of that year, and we ended up losing, I think, to Boston College in the tournament. But
Right.
the team that we had in 2017 was one of the best teams that I've ever been a part of, and was a very fun team to coach, that's for sure.
What was the time like with the Red Wings? I mean, I guess were you mostly scouting New England? Where were you scouting, basically?
I was based out of the Midwest,
Okay.
so I was covering the Midwest for the amateur draft, and
Gotcha.
it was tough because my first year was COVID, kind of shut
right.
everything down, so it was just a little bit of I feel like a non-traditional hockey season that year.
Yeah. Well, we all got through it, but the Ivies didn't play, and I can still remember being at the Frozen Four with about 4 other reporters and 50 fans. It was one of the weirdest things ever. But just talking about your coaching style and maybe where you were most influenced in your style. What because everyone's a little different. A lot of the X's and O's are the same these days, but in terms of style, everyone's a little different. So.
Yeah, I think from our side of things, I think you'll hear me use the term connected a lot, and just teaching the guys to be connected as a 5-man unit, both with the puck and without the puck. So it's it's something that from a style of play with the puck, we want to be predictable. We want to know where everybody's going to be at. We want to know what everybody's going to be thinking. Without the puck is to be aggressive as much as we can to try and get it back. And there's there'll be a foundation of some principles and things that we implement early on to help us be strong away from the puck. And it's going to be for me, it'll be probably new for a lot of these guys from a with the puck side of things, but incredibly excited to work with the group and kind of instill some of those habits and foundational principles we have early on during training camp.
All right, and when Cornell fans throw fish at you for the first time as a head coach, try not to take it too personally. That's all I can say.
Not at all. Not at all. Luke, I can't wait. That's always such a great game and such a great experience. Can't wait for that one.
Part of the charm. But listen, I appreciate it.